How are we doing, diggers? Hope you're all well. Welcome to the van, which can mean one thing. We're off to see a collection. I'll talk about that in a minute. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to our channel and all the likes, subscribes, all of that jazz. It's lovely. Thank you ever so much. And if you're new here, welcome. My name's Grant. I run a record shop in the Midlands in the UK. We've got 2 record shops. So yeah, total record enthusiast and total geek when it comes to all things music. So today, yeah, in the van, we're off to see a collection. Now, I'm very excited about this one, but a bit apprehensive, a bit nervous too. There's lots of bits and bobs that could go right, could go wrong. So let's delve in, shall we? So we got a phone call last week to say there's a collection, roughly 3,000 records. Brilliant. Big old collection. Usually with a big old collection, it means that there's a specialist interest in there, or there's going to be some good stuff, surely. You can't collect 3,000 records without hitting on at least some Beatles records or something. Anyway, we're talking jazz is mentioned, classical is mentioned, soundtracks are heavily mentioned. So this guy was a big soundtrack collector. So there we go, there's our niche right there. Sadly passed away just before COVID times. I remember those. So in lockdown, they started sorting the collection. They started going through and preparing to sell it individually themselves when we all had loads of free time in COVID. So that would have been a perfect time to start researching, getting to know the collection and starting listing it and selling it. But then obviously life came back in and kicked into flow, and there wasn't the time to do that. And I think as well, it's one thing dedicating time to selling a huge record collection, but the other is dedicating time to learning the knowledge. If you are outside of the record collecting world, I'm not saying it's impossible, sure, definitely not, you can learn anything. But just take, like we mentioned Beatles earlier, just take Revolver. There are 800 different pressings of that record. And when you're first met with that, and if you don't even know the record to start with, where do you even begin? It's really quite challenging. So yeah, I think they had got to the point where they were a bit blindsided. They had started with eBay, looking up on eBay, as you know, the Beatles Revolver flicks up £400 straight away. And I completely understand why you would look at that and go, brilliant, we've got a £400 record. But if you've got the 1982 pressing, it's not going to be £400, it's going to be a 20 quid record. You know, even then, I can't think of a Revolver that is really worth 400 quid. The Withdraw mix we sell regularly, we seem to get quite a few in, 150 quid for a really nice one. Anyway, I digress. So they've given me a call. It's a few years later since they began sorted. The ones that they'd taken back had gone up into the loft. The job had been stalled, and now it comes to the time of selling the house or doing something with the house, I'm not sure exactly, but the records need to go. So first up with a collection like that, it's a cursory look, it's a go there and have a look. So we did that last week, and it was a tricky one. Probably 3/4 of the collection is up in a very tight loft. It's very tricky to get up there and have a look. I will show you a little bit of footage there so you can see. Really hard to get up there and have a proper look. I could only really look at one section, you know, those records on one side, because back there I couldn't really get to the spine. Some were the other way around without dislodging them all. And actually they were safely stored in there. They were all upright, they were all okay. Obviously not the most ideal way of storing records for a long period of time, but that was fine, they were okay, and I didn't want to start ragging them around. So I could only give a small amount of valuation or information about what was in the loft. Huge homemade Kallax unit downstairs, which was a gorgeous piece of furniture, which points to good records, because obviously loved them, cared for them, and stored them well. And the first thing you hit is a ton of Cliff Richard, Benny Goodman, Dixieland jazz, you know, nothing of huge note. Some carpenters, great, but no values. So yeah, looking through and finding stuff, and then finding the odd soundtrack, but nothing that rocked my world. So there wasn't anything post 90s at that point, you know. Lots of it was like Lawrence of Arabia, you know, Morricone, which is again great, but very plentiful, and there's not much of it. So I couldn't find a huge amount. They did have a list of stuff that they'd taken home, and again, there was some great stuff in there, but I've got no idea what pressing it is, what condition it is, or anything. So you can't value it off that. And then I'm in the loft, and I can't really give a true valuation. Found some nice bits in the loft, but again, not enough to be like, okay, yeah. And at this point as well, they're not sure if they want to do a deal, and I'm not sure if I want to do a deal because I'm not finding much, and I don't want to throw figures around. So I gave a very, very rough pinch of salt valuation for them to think about, but saying we would definitely find more than that when we come back. But that is hopefully a bottom end figure. Even then, if I've not seen condition, might not be a bottom end figure. But they were cool with that. They were cool. I've gone over there and I picked up the records that they initially took to start selling themselves. We're here with them now. The boot is absolutely rammed full as well. Anyway, stop rambling, sorry. I'm excited, as you can tell, and a bit nervous because we might not find anything, and I have put a cursory figure on the table, which was quite a large amount, and if we don't find the value and it's all in terrible condition, I've got a boot full of records that I probably have to give back. Okay, I'm sure it'll be fine. It will work out fine. So here we are at Leicester Forest East Services. It's always weird stopping at the services that is pretty much on your patch, because you shouldn't be here. You should be at services on the way to a holiday or something like that. Anyway, needs must. I'm absolutely starving, so I've got myself a posh sandwich, don't you know, from Waitrose. So here we are at the boot. I only left them for 3.5 seconds. Don't worry, they're not too hot. York. I think we can get another one on there. Just unstrap my darling babies. Here you go, darlings. Well done for being so well behaved. Oh yes. Check that.
Entry.
Oh. So there are some solid winners already. Yeah. Plenty of guff, plenty of good. A good mixture. Yeah. So here we are. This is the wild big old collection. This is just the first haul, the small amount that they took home, and we are sorting it into relatively decent saleable bits, general shop stock as it were, stuff that he'll go in there, stuff that we think is worth very, very little, country, classical and bits and bobs, western stuff, and then stuff that we're going to soundtracks here, and then stuff that we want to check because either we're not sure it looks more interesting, more valuable. So let's just do this pile as we go. On Liberty, we'll check that. That's the thing with a lot of these kind of collections. Sometimes you've got something that looks pretty rubbish or not very good, but is actually amazing. Kind of cool. I'm guessing that's a quid nothing record, but I'm not going to chuck it in that pile just in case then we lose it. I can guarantee that. And like I said before, the stuff that's going in the pound lot isn't necessarily rubbish or anything. We're just trying to do a quick job on this so we get some idea of where we're at. Right, here we go then. So we have been sorting. There is a method to all this madness, and it will make sense. Don't worry about the condition of the records. They will only be in big piles for about 1.5 minutes while we do this. So everything's going to get boxed up and labelled now, and it will just be put into easy categories. So this is what we're calling, I called it bread and butter stuff in our last video. It's just cheapy, mainly £5 bin stuff, okay, or decent saleable stuff. So that is a really lovely condition. I'm not sure which pressing it is. It is a stereo. It's not a first press, but it's an early press. Let's just have a look. It looks in great condition. It is really, really lovely condition. So that's nice. We'll definitely have some value in that one. Not sure off the top of my head without checking exactly which pressing it is. So yeah, nice. That's a nice one. However, loads of the rest is just great stuff, but again, just standard stuff that will probably clog up our £5 bins, maybe some pound bins, some decent stuff. I mean, that's a 12 quid album, nice and easy, and again, absolutely wonderful condition. That is the main thing that I'm loving about this collection so far. Everything we've seen looks to be played once or twice. Now, a few sleeves have been slightly stuck together, but nothing has ripped when we've done it, when we've like pulled them apart. I think that's just from a bit of Loft, you know, being in the Loft for a bit of time. So, Dylan, loads of Elton John, nothing hugely exciting. That is a slightly later press, but that's cool to see in really lovely condition. But as I've said before, rock and roll has plummeted in value. That used to be, oh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure a 50 quid album. It's not now. I don't know, 15, 20 quid if you're lucky and nice nick. But anyway, that's just my shop. Other shops, maybe more. You might see it around for more or less, I'm not sure. Anyway, so yeah, it's a nice bit of Grand Parson at the end, a few more Beatles. This is the nice little wedge that I put together. Yeah, some good stuff. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Then this is where we put all the soundtracks together. I do apologise. Oh, sorry. I do apologise for the noise. I've got to keep the fan on. It's getting into 30 degrees up here, so the fan's got to stay on. So sorry about that whirring. Anyway, soundtracks again. Some stuff that is not particularly exciting. Oh, that's quite exciting. Marlon Brando. Some cool stuff, and I know there's more cool stuff back at the shop. Oh, I think that's cool. What a lovely memory. Watership Down, and it's completely sealed. I love stuff that's that old and sealed. That's really cool. So yeah, a mixture in the sound track category. Some fun stuff so far, but I think tomorrow will be the time that we actually find some really cool stuff in there. Then we've got more £3 to £5 if we're lucky stuff. Sadly, no value whatsoever. All country, absolutely all country, and not cool country or anything. Well, Wanda Jackson has got some good stuff, but unsaleable country, I'm afraid. Stuff that just hasn't stood the test of time. So I would say we're down to very, 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 very little value there, sadly. But what comes with bad country is good country. So we've got some lovely Bobby Gentry in this box here, and then a few bits to check. I checked that it's sort of post-bop experimental jazz, but it has a value of around 30 quid. So that's good to find as well. Should we have a little whiz through this box? So yeah, like I say, Bobby Gentry, that's at least 1978 pressing. But yeah, I love that album, that Bobby Gentry album, so that's cool to have in. And then again, like Lonnie Donegan, it's going to be in our free pile here, so we might as well stick it over there. Nice, that's a great On-the-Half Brickin', that's a great album. Should we check if it's an early press or not? Okay, it is what I think is first press label for that album. What is it? Is it 1969? I don't want to get it wrong. But yeah, that's an early island label, so that's great. That's got a decent wedge of value. That, it's funny that one, because in America, I see you guys posting this as the most common record that you see in charity shops or thrift stores. Like everywhere, do you know what I mean? It's one of the joke records. I use Paul Young No Parlay as my joke record that's in every collection. Over here, I barely ever see any copies. So actually for me, I'm like, oh, that's quite cool to see what isn't a record that people talk about a lot, but we don't see very often. Okay, low value stuff again. Very low value stuff. Don Williams. More Don Williams. Oh, yeah, nice. So if that first Fairport is a first press, I think that probably will be as well. Dina Washington, what's that? Bucks Fizz, another Fairport. So yeah, first Fairport, and yeah, looking at the label, it is a stereo. I think the mono is more expensive, but a stereo first press is great. Let's just have a little look at the condition. Really, really, really nice. So yeah, that is the great thing about this collection. The condition is spot on, which doesn't really matter when it comes to all this country or classical or sort of easy listening stuff. But for a record like that, that makes the difference between, you know, we've got copies of that in as a first press, but they're always knackered. And they're what, like 5-10 quid, because who wants a VG below? So yeah, condition is absolutely everything with records, as I keep saying over and over. But look at the gloss on that laminate and the spine, that is great. So I'd say first press of that, stereo, I don't know, probably 40-50 quid. Realistically, you know, yes, I bet there are more listed. I bet the average is more on Discogs, but if you list everything at top whack. Oh, Jimmy Smith on Blue Note. Yes, please. Okay, that's cool. If you list everything at top whack, oh, Booker T and the MGs, that's cool as well. Look at that. Look at that for a cool sleeve. Yes, please. Yes, sorry. I'll try and finish my point. If you list everything at top whack or at the median on Discogs, woohoo! It takes forever to sell. B, people are a bit reticent to stump up their money, then I might not come back. If you sell it at a realistic price, then it turns around quicker and everyone's happy. People have got a good bargain, haven't they? People are a lot happier. So I'd much rather underprice and get it sold than have it on the wall forever at 30 quid more and just never get a sale, or people just go, bloody hell, that's expensive, I'm not going back there. That's my philosophy anyway. Shall we attack the Leaning Tower of Doom here? See what we can find in here. I mean, that's a cool album already. That's quite cool. So we'll go standards. We'll try and do it standard sellers. Theme from shop, so like a compilation. We'll do cheesy stuff, and we'll do low value stuff here. Sadly, Bill Haley, again, that's probably original nice condition press. It will go in that one. Wanda Jackson, Let's Have a Party. I think that's pretty cool, so that can go in our standards. That's a nice album. It's the Beatles, but done by Roger Webb and his trio. That's a nice little foot bopper. Joni Mitchell. Band on the Run with a poster, it's good. Yellow Magic Orchestra, so that's good. Fleetwood Mac, so yeah, that's some good steady stuff in here. Alright, don't know that one. Covers, Hey Jude and some not so good covers, but they look like dudes on the back, so we'll put that in our to check pile. Johnny Cash, one of the greatest albums of all time. The other one is Johnny Cash at the other prison. Sorry, I can't think off the top of my head what it is. There it is. Thank you, Johnny. Folsom Prison and San Quentin. I don't know what's better. I'm not sure, but they're great live albums. Johnny Cash is actually Cash. Oh, nice Beach Boys. That's a cool Beach Boys. Don't see that one very often. More Beach Boys, a nice Beatles for Sale. Again, assuming that's definitely going to be yellow parlophone. Here we go. Some of the records are a little tiny bit stuck together. So some solid sellers, a Fleetwood Mac there with a textured sleeve and all the inners. So that's pretty cool. Nice, thank you. I always look at this record and think, what the hell happened to his head and his head? Now I'm pretty certain it's just the bouffant hairstyle, but Jesus, what a comb. Kenny Rogers and crew, that's quite cool. And another dude. But do you see what I mean about stuff that you just see everywhere? You know, stuff that is just, that we get inundated with all day long, this stuff. And that's great, there's nothing wrong with it. Again, I'm talking about looking for value for these guys to get the most we can out of this collection. More country, beyond country. I thought that said Lee Hazelwood. And I thought, that definitely isn't Lee Hazelwood. Yowzers. I'm imagining country. Now, if that isn't a country record, I'll eat my horse. That's a cool record to have in. Stevie Nicks Belladonna. Thank you. That's cool. Early press of that. It takes two, baby. More country. Country. That's cool. Anyway, right, I'm going to give up now because my knees are really hurting. So where are we so far? We are basically all sorted now. Just need to get these all in their boxes and labelled up. Where are we on a value though? You know, when I saw this on a list, it's impossible to say. Some of them, it doesn't matter what pressing it is, but others like that, Beatles for instance, it really matters hugely. If that was a first press stereo, we'd be on to £2,000. So, you know, but if it's not, it's not. I spoke about that earlier. But some nice surprises in the Fairport Convention and things like that. For every good record, there's nearly 20 that have probably very little or no value. Condition is great, so that's a plus point. But if you've got records that are not popular anymore, how do you sell them? You know, I would say if you had this collection here and you went to sell it yourself individually, you'd sell your bread and butter stuff. You'd probably get rid of that Beatles stereo if you priced it right. But you know, you'd probably sell about 60 or 70 records in the first 6 months and you'd be flying and going, this is brilliant. And then it would slow right down for some of the much harder stuff, the niche stuff, or the stuff that just have very low value. And for us as a business, we've got to factor in storage. Well, I've got to figure in our staff costs. Tomorrow, there's going to be 3 members of staff and we're open tomorrow as well. So we've got to juggle 3 members of staff. The other end is processing and sorting this, which is another different 3 members of staff. So as a business, this is costing time. I'm here, I'm probably going to come back this evening and do the rest of this. We're all going to be working hard on this. Paying for rent, paying for storage probably to put when tomorrow comes. It's all costs we've got to factor into basically having records that are worth very little. I didn't even show you what we put out into the kitchen from the collection. And then we've got this 3 Calax here, which is the stuff from the collection 2, which we've taken out because it's the, like, well, it's not even low to no value, it's the no value stuff. Yeah, that sort of stuff there is going to be going straight in our free bin, and you can see why. Of its time, let's say. All of that is in the free bin. Those ones are pulled in the actual bin. So all in all, I haven't really got to a point of doing much more with the initial valuation I've put in. Still on the fence. Obviously I'm taking the collection and we have agreed a bottom end price, but we haven't really hit that with this. But tomorrow is a new day and tomorrow is another story, and I'm just hoping that up in that loft, the stuff that I couldn't get to, there are some absolute gems. So I am going to do this now. Sorry, I'm thinking on the spot, but this is going to have to turn into a 2-part video. So this will be part 1, and yeah, join us for the next installment, where we're looking at the rest, which I think is around 2,000 records at least, and lots of loft work, going into a loft in 32 degrees heat. That's going to make some interesting content, isn't it? So yeah, join us on the next journey and we'll see where we get to in the end here. Hopefully we'll pull some absolute bangers tomorrow. But join us in the next part. Thank you again for joining us here so far, and we'll see you for more records very soon. Cheers, bye.